We didn't check our levels before we went on, did we? Did we check our levels? I didn't do a mic check with you. Oops. Sarah Bailey is right. You are the smarter of the two.
There, I was trying to figure out how to manually turn that down. This is our little precursor to the intro.
It gets me in the mood.
I don't know if Sarah Bailey heard what you said.
I said Sarah Bailey was correct when she postulated last week in the private text message that you are the smarter of the two Wilsons.
Oh.
Sarah Bailey, isn't she Paul Van Noy's secretary?
Probably administrative assistant. Don't be offensive.
Uh-huh.
Any other words you wanted to say before I go into my official intro?
Take it away.
All right.
I'm going to Dan Rather real quick.
He's Dan Rathering. That's our inside joke. Dan Rather for a minute. Welcome to the Liberty Without Compromise live stream broadcast. We are the only local liberty-minded live program here in Kootenai County where we expose political power players, politicians, social media influencers. They are abundant. Power player pastors.
They are abundant.
My goodness. A new one on every corner each week. We're your hosts, Dan and Donna Wilson. I'm here to screen your questions and comments. What you're going to do, you're going to get involved in the comment section on whichever platform you're watching by typing those questions and comments right there. And when appropriate, we'll bring those, make those a part of the program. Remember, as you're watching live here with us tonight, to share this feed to your page or profile. A reminder that the opinions expressed tonight, especially if they're Casey Whalen's opinion, they're not necessarily that of our advertisers, affiliates, or sponsors. I was kidding.
No, I'm not disagreeing.
That was an accurate statement. And for those of you listening back on our podcast.
Calm down, Ed.
If you're listening back on our podcast, be sure to join us live every Wednesday night at 7. As I always say, it's more fun that way. Tonight on the program, we're going to break down the controversy surrounding Stefanie Fetzer's October 27th meetup. It was a so-called casual gathering. I do believe that. It took a sharp turn when Coeur d'Alene police were called. That's weird. And tensions rose quickly. This meetup, co-hosted by Stefanie Fetzer and Erin Barnard, was presented as a simple community hangout featuring then candidate for Coeur d'Alene Mayor Dan Gookin. But at the last minute, Fetzer abruptly changed the event's location, a move that many now see as strategic, a shift that placed Dave Reilly directly in the crosshairs the moment he walked into that original location. Reilly, already one of North Idaho's most polarizing figures, became the center of the storm. And within hours of the police incident, Fetzer filed a public records request, raising even more questions about her intentions and what she hoped to gain from the fallout. Tonight, Casey Whalen, he joins us to talk about what he witnessed at the October 27th meetup, whether Fetzer's last-minute pivot was deliberate, if Reilly was intentionally set up or targeted, why police were called in the first place, and what Whalen knows about Fetzer's immediate public records request. We're going to connect this incident to the broader behavioral pattern that we've uncovered in our ongoing investigation with Stefanie Fetzer and those surrounding her: political engineering, narrative manipulation, and the quiet orchestration of smear campaigns in Kootenai County. With that, now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Dan Wilson.
Thanks for joining. You are in for a fun show tonight. We do have Casey Whalen on with us. More of that to come. But yes, Liberty Without Compromise broadcast number 46. Can you believe that we've made it to almost 50 this year?
I believe it because I feel it.
Yeah.
I feel it in my bones. Yeah.
So we're glad you joined us. If you've joined us for the first time, we discuss all things liberty without compromise. And in the nature of our founders, those that wrote about such things like John Locke and their belief as they framed the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, that all men were created equal and all have the rights to life, liberty, and property. Now, the very mention of liberty gets people all whipped up because it means something a little bit to everybody, right? Mm-hmm. A little bit different.
Well, and a lot of groups have taken on that name, or it's a part of a name. Yeah. What does it really even mean anymore?
But in this one, we tend to focus solely on, I shouldn't say solely, we focus more heavily on the founders and what they had to say, since we all live under this constitutional republic. And one of the things that pisses off a lot of you out there, let's just call it what it is. Right now, many of you so-called conservatives, many of you so-called patriots love to push for suppression of speech that you find offensive, speech that you find to be unacceptable, because after all, it hurts my feeling, or it hurts my religion, or it hurts my friend down the street. How dare you allow these people to say what they're saying? And you don't realize that it is that speech that you find most offensive that you should especially protect. Because if we lose the right to express our opinions, to express our minds, to our ideas, and our civil discourse throughout the day, we'll lose everything. And it's a slippery slope. You cannot give 1 inch when it comes to free speech. To do so is straight out of the pit of hell. And I'm talking to many of you North Idaho Republicans out there right now. You know who you are. You believe that it is okay to suppress some free speech because it's hateful. And I think that we're going to be watching what's going on throughout not only the state legislature this year, but also across the country to see if Republicans truly believe in the principles that they say they do, or if they too will cave. And, we were all whipped up during the 2020 social media lockdown phase that we went through in this country, and for the next 3 or 4 years until X came back on, when we found out the government was purposely collaborating with social media to suppress speech. And all of you folks out there, they were all pissed off about COVID. And, you couldn't talk about ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine. You couldn't talk about the Wuhan virus because your right to speak was suppressed, literally. But how it is really funny that once the other side gets into office and somebody else gets on their high horse as to what is or is not offensive speech, you're willing to throw away all your principles in a heartbeat. And that includes promoting hate crimes and hate speech laws. So anyway, enough on that. Tonight, we are going to talk about primarily what went on back on October 27th with Stefanie Fetzer, Paul Van Noy, Davalou Cummings, that group that is apparently at odds with the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee. That's been fascinating to watch. I think there is quite a divide there that is happening. We're going to talk about statistics that show that voting is not going well, number-wise, right here in Kootenai County, despite Kootenai Republican Central Committee's best efforts, but maybe they know how to play the game. We're going to talk about a senator that is as old as Methuselah, and you fools out there that will cast a vote for him. So, yeah, we've got a lot to talk about tonight, and we're gonna get going on it.
Is he really that old? Okay, but before we get going, I need to know. Yeah. I need to know if Sarah Bailey was impressed with my title slide tonight.
Your Chat GPT skills.
Well, I have to just let you more on the inner circle and my inside secrets. It wasn't Chat GPT. Chat GPT doesn't do so well sometimes when you're working on caricature images.
Yeah.
So that one was actually Grok.
Okay. So your title slide photos were a compilation of Grok.
And they are intended to be caricatures, kind of an exploded.
Kind of when you go to the fair and you pay that one dude to quickly sketch you, and he draws you with gigantic lips and noses and all that stuff.
They came out fantastically. Yeah. I want to remind our viewers on Instagram that our live streaming platform has created a new feature where it will send a vertical video, which is much better for viewing there on Instagram because it doesn't flip the videos sideways. However, the feature that they have not figured out to do yet, and people are already complaining, is to allow a separate video feed for a vertical feed. So what you end up seeing on Instagram is the center. When you have more than one host, it works great if your host is in the center. You have one talking head. But you see the center of the screen. So I think they're probably seeing my hand right now. So anyway, consider switching over to watching on our YouTube channel. That's at the Idaho Sheriff. You're going to get that full screen, full res view.
Yeah. While Dawn is pulling up our slide for our visuals, I know you love the visuals on this show. They are outstanding. Even the ones that Dan Wilson creates, they're not quite on par because you're the smarter one, but they'll do.
You got to ask Sarah Bailey.
Look, why do we have some of the oldest farts in Congress? When you think of Chuck Grasslate's almost 90 years old, when you think of Nancy Pelosi, when you think of, well, she's dead now, Dianne Feinstein, but how long she was there. Dianne Feinstein is dead, right? Pretty positive. Fact check me.
I think she is.
Why do we have such a love affair, even in our own county, our own state, with old legislators? Why do we keep putting up with these guys that get into office like Jim Risch? We're going to show a slide here of Jim Risch. We'll put up on the screen. This came from the Coeur d'Alene Press just a couple days ago. Risch is ready to run in 2026. He's already 82 years old, and he is going to throw himself back into campaign mode again so that he can serve, I think it's a fourth 6-year term. So he'll have been in office for a quarter of a century. Sounds more impressive than 24 years.
Well, he's an expert. He's an expert.
The Coeur d'Alene Press goes on to talk about some of his accomplishments. And, I remember this guy definitely was not a friend of the Make America Great crowd back in 2020. That was awesome, by the way. I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that.
got a little redundant.
So you have Risch that, he has voted for some of the largest spending bills since COVID, especially. And then he's sitting here and being quoted in the Coeur d'Alene Press as, I can't believe that we're accumulating $1 trillion in debt, every couple, 150 or whatever days. The dude's been in there forever. In fact, the dude's been a politician since 1970 when he first won prosecuting attorney down in southern Idaho. And he's worked his way through the legislature. He's worked his way through the lieutenant governor's office. But why do we keep putting guys that are this freaking old right back into the seat? What is it about these guys?
You're getting Damon's going toe to toe with you. He says our founders were pretty old.
How old were they?
But wait, it gets better.
How old were they, Damon?
He's going to tell us. He's going to look it up and tell us. But he says he understands Jim's old, but he has every right to run again.
Well, sure he has every right. But people are fools to keep putting these old guys back in. What do these old guys truly represent of the younger generation? Those of us that are actually working, that haven't been a effing politician for 50 effing years. I mean, I am so sick and tired of public servants that have never had a real job. And you know what? You can't tell me that an 82-year-old man is as sharp, as bright, as brilliant, has as much energy as a man half his age. That's my personal opinion. And I think that if we actually do a check on the founders, just because they wore white wigs doesn't mean that they were as old as what you think. I mean, Washington was in his 40s. What's your definition of old? My definition of old is 70 and 80. I mean, I'd like to push that down further down the road once I get older.
Then it's going to be 100.
But all these old guys, even Trump's an old guy. Why can we only get old people to represent us? But you have Risch. It's going to be almost 90 years old if he is elected to another term. Now I'm gonna read one last quote that I think is just it is the icing on the cake.
Is that on your slide?
Yeah, it's actually on page 3 in the red box. He says he was reelected to a 6-year term in 2020 and plans to run again in 26. When people tell him he's been in office a long time and should do something else, his response is simple. It is not my fault. I told people what I would do, and when I went in and did what I said I was going to do, they vote for me again, he said. Yeah, cool. It has nothing to do with the fact that Republicans, like we see in this very county, are afraid to bring anybody else on. They won't put any money behind younger people. And I mean, I've heard Ron Mendive, be quoted to say that he'd like to retire, but he just doesn't know that somebody could come in and take his place. I don't know if that's his direct quote. That was told to me by a mutual friend. But here's the problem. Young guys won't get involved because the central committees, the people with the money, won't put any money in their campaign because they like these old timers that will continually do what they want, that are consistent and that they can control.
Well, I think they're working on a next generation, but they have to make sure that they've come up through the ranks enough that they're going to comply.
Well, we did a podcast 3 years ago, specifically addressing old congressmen and senators. And I think the average age of senators was over 60-something years old. So anyway, no offense to you, Damon, but I would respectfully disagree that, these old timers should still be there, because we're dumb enough. We keep electing them. I will never vote for Risch or Simpson or Crapo or Fulcher. I mean, I'm sick and tired of them all. What do they do to represent us actually here to protect liberty?
Well, I don't know. We don't have debates anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Reminder that we've got Casey Whalen. He's in the wings, going to be joining us here in just a little bit. So you want to stick around for that. We're going to be discussing the events that Stefanie Fetzer, once again, right in the middle of, kind of seemed like a political hit that Dave Reilly got stuck in the crosshairs of, or did he? It's some questions we're going to ask, but Casey Whalen was there, so he's going to talk to us about his accounts and then some things he's uncovered since those moments that day.
Yeah. So speaking of voting right here locally, Watchman Ministry put out a stat that they just published, I think, recently here. And it is Kootenai County voter participation declines again. Look at these interesting graphs. On the left side, we're pulling from 2021 through 2025. Remember 2021 when everybody was really motivated to get out and vote because of COVID and because of Biden and all that stuff? Kootenai County, it looks like that we have approximately 35.25% turnout of registered voters in 2021. And by just this year, a couple weeks ago, it had fallen out to 28.44%. When you look at the ballots cast versus the voter registrations, 2021, you had 99,137 registered voters and only 34,950 actually came out to vote. By 2025, we had grown to 100 and almost 8,000 and only 30,705 turned out. So we are trending, despite the KCRCC's efforts, because this is predominantly a Republican county, right? So despite the KCRCC's dollars that they keep putting into these rating and vetting and the ballot samples and what they're doing, This looks like to me that Republicans are not coming out to vote as much.
Well, I think that's a byproduct of confusion.
On what?
They're starting to hear rumors of what's going on within the KCRCC, what the political motivations have been, who's controlling that, and the word's getting out. I mean, it's more difficult. Yet you can't suppress people forever, and especially when there's a candidate like you that ran in that last big election that was able to take hold of social media channels and produce things as rapidly as we were able to do. And you just, it for them, they got a little bit lazy in how they got lazy and weren't prepared to stay ahead of those things, and were in a position of being reactive. And I think a lot was revealed during that time.
Interesting. I think we might also look at the fact that Reagan, and probably I'm going to guess Bjorn through McShane, the political consultants, these political science geeks, they probably know that the voter turnout is as low as it is, and so it's a lower bar for them to be successful.
Oh, yeah.
So those of you out there that want change, whether it's North Idaho Republicans or independents or whatever else, the reason things aren't changing is because, like, the majority is not getting out to vote. And it blows my mind that in this county, you would have people that are too lazy, too apathetic to actually vote.
Well, and it's a known strategy. I mean, there are things that are going to fly under the radar and pass in those smaller elections because voter turnout is an issue anyway. But then as you're presenting, and by the way, I put a QR code for Watchman Ministry up in the corner of the screen if you want to check out their website and additional resources, as Dan was using that graph that they provided to us. But yeah, the confusion, I was seeing it online. I was seeing people, they wanted to go vote, but they're like, look, I'm hearing an undercurrent of not good things at the KCRCC. Where do I go to find information? They were really struggling to figure out, like, I want to go to the polls, but I legitimately don't know what to do. And they don't have the time, nor had put in the investment of time enough prior. And how long how are people campaigning in those smaller elections? I mean, I think a lot of them were only announcing maybe 2 months before election day, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're like, how much of the public is going to be aware or have enough repetition or redundancy in a matter of 2 months to have a clue what's going on?
Well, time will tell. I want to follow up on Damon because this one, I wish I had these stats at the top of my head, but I did look them up. So Damon, regarding our founders, were pretty old. Damon's calling our founders old. So I want to tell you out there what old is. According to my search, the youngest, there was 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence, so that's what we're going to call our founders. The youngest was 26. The oldest was Benjamin Franklin at 70. Median age was 44 years and 4 months. Under 30, there were 7 signers. 30 to 39, there was 13 signers. 40 to 49, there was 20. 50 to 59 were 12. And 60 plus were only 4. So I don't know, Damon. Am I considered an old guy? Because I'm kind of there and towards the end. So anyway,
you better get busy. You better run for something else.
Well, hey,
you better run for Congress.
No, my days of running for any office are done. Listen, let's play this video before we bring our guest up, and let's give a little background to those who maybe haven't been following what's going on here locally. There was as we stated earlier, a huge rift in local Republican politics between those that supported current city councilman Dan Gookin for mayor and those that were opposed. Now, those that tended to be, my observation, for Dan Gookin were the North Idaho Republicans and the Candlelight people. Paul Van Noy, former Fed, Davalou Cummings, Stefanie Fetzer, political operative, and their cronies, the tattoo parlor informants. And then you had on the other side the KCRCC that hates Dan, can't stand Dan, and wanted their vetted what do you call it? Their recommended candidate, Debbie Loffman. And so what we saw play out is quite a bit of going back and forth between the two camps. We had all 4 candidates on. We spoke to them all directly. We recognize everybody has a right in this county to support who you want to. I mean, that is your ultimate right as an American with your own conscience to represent or to elect and promote somebody that reflects your values. So just as a disclaimer, this is the frame that we're coming from. Now, part of the dirty politics you think come from the left, from the Democrats. That's what we generally think when we think of dirty politics. But would it surprise you to know that dirty politics can be played by so-called Republicans and so-called Republican Christians?
Would it surprise me?
Yeah, would it surprise you?
Yeah, no.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to play this video and give you a little background so you can see what's going on. Then we're going to bring on our guest, my friend, Casey Whalen. Let's go ahead and play that video.
Oh, the cops are here now. Look at this. They call the cops? What happened? Nothing. Here and nothing. Hi. Yep. Phony accounts on Twitter, and here's one of the famous speakers. Dave is such a pain, always a big
Hi. Good, how are you? Good. Hi.
I got from the police
Oh,
officer.
yeah. Pretty cool.
Printed all the flyers at all the food trucks
That's
Flyers.
for the 5 p.m. gathering.
That's not us.
No? No.
We have no flyers. Don't think I can.
No. Who are you with?
I'm not answering any questions. I'm not answering any
You're
questions.
not answering any questions.
We really didn't have flyers.
No, we didn't do any flyers.
Okay, can I ask why you guys are gathering here?
So we have fun and hang out, eat food, eat dinner.
Okay, we asked why you're here.
Why are you here?
You got called in.
Okay.
By
Did you
who?
get some tacos? The burritos are in bag.
I asked what the issue was.
Look at that.
The complaint?
Good job, Willie.
Right.
What a loser.
Well, it's private property, and the manager has asked everyone to leave the pavilion.
What?
Why?
That's where we're at. Because
I'm
it's
a
private
patron.
property, and they want you to leave.
Yeah.
Everyone.
All right, let's go.
For what? They don't need a reason.
We're just
Their property.
let's go.
So we come here, we all order food and are eating and
So I'm just the messenger, sir. Okay, that's where we're at.
unbelievable. Well, where do you guys want to go?
Let's go somewhere.
Yes. That's an option.
How about by first? All right, have a good night.
So you guys can just kick out patients?
Well, they
Again, we're
can.
just
They
the
can
messenger,
trespass.
Okay? The owner of the property wants you guys all to leave.
Did they say why?
Would you mind clarifying for us?
They don't need a
The
reason.
owner of the property is? No.
Then how do we know that you're not gonna like this?
Okay, well, I personally spoke with the owner of the property. This is unbelievable. I want everyone to leave. It's that simple. You guys all need to leave.
So you're gonna leave? I'm gonna
So we have the
Hold on.
The main reason is that you were promoting pizza and beer. There's no alcohol allowed in the pavilion. There's no
beer. There's no pizza.
Okay, I'm not gonna argue. You all need to leave.
So that's up for us to address.
Very simple. Okay?
We'll see you, mate.
All right. We'll see you. All right.
Planning to take over.
This was the plan. Obviously.
Now we know.
That's fine. We're gonna find out who's doing it anyway.
And with that, let's bring on our guest, Casey Whalen. Casey, good to see you, brother.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
I want to jump in because Casey, I want you to introduce yourself for anybody who's like coming in on the middle of a conversation. Very briefly, your background, frame of reference, independent journalist, so that we all know who we're talking to.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've been started out actually as a First Amendment auditor filming the police. So I'm surprised the Coeur d'Alene police didn't, in the police report they filed, didn't know who I was. But anyways, I transitioned into becoming a independent investigative journalist. I worked out of a studio in Spokane for a couple of years, learning videography, learning the whole thing. I just wanted to be the best at exposing corruption in Idaho. And that's been my goal. I've been basically embedding myself in communities throughout Idaho. The last couple of years, I've been doing this for like maybe the last 5 years, I'd say solid, maybe 6 years now, solidly. And this has been, I feel like this is something I have to do. I've been sacrificing a lot of my personal life to do this, but at the end of the day, I can live with myself. So it's been really great to help people in Idaho get their stories out that otherwise would not have been able to do. So it's been a learning process, learning how to develop stories, learning how to do public records requests, all kinds of filming events, town halls, speaking engagements, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours across the board, just trying to get better and better all the time. So I feel like I'm really getting a handle on what I'm trying to accomplish. And at the end of the day, it's really just to serve the people of Idaho. I don't work for anybody in particular. Doing this, I'm just trying to help people. And so that's been my goal, and just trying to get better. So thank you so much for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for coming on. Now, when I first became acquainted with you, it is when you were a First Amendment auditor. And I remember that you had actually come to the agency that I worked with at the time and spoke with one of our sergeants. In fact, I think I remember that video. I'll have to find it one of these days. But
in Liberty Lake?
Yeah. Yep. My old sergeant, Ray Bourgeois. But no, you were there. I first became aware of what we're getting ready to go into more depth about a couple weeks ago when you posted on your X account the video of what took place. And I was extremely fascinated because, of course, we have been following Stefanie Fetzer and Candlelight. And of course, these things we have been accused of collaborating and working together undercover to, all attack. But it's interesting that we have all independently done our own investigations, had our own experience, and then we see these actions being played out in the public square. So give us a little background. We saw that video. You guys were up off of Prairie between Ramsey and 95 at a little food court where food trucks are there. You guys were inside eating, several of you. We saw Dave Reilly. Tell us, what were you guys there for, and then kind of what unrolled?
Well, I was just really there to kind of document. From what I understood, Dan Gookin was going to be there. I wasn't really following the things on social media. I knew that Dave was talking about on his show, The Backlash, that he was going to be meeting up at the Prairie Pavilion. He never said why, just they were going to have a meetup and they're going to bring pizza and beer. And it was kind of left at that. And so
that's what Reilly told you?
Well, no, this was on his show. He said this on the show that he was basically alluding to bringing pizza and beer.
Got it.
But when we went to the event, there was food from what I understand, but it wasn't brought in.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no alcohol because there was a sign up saying you can't bring outside food and beverages or whatever. So that was respected, and people that were there bought from the vendors. So it was blown up. It was taken out of proportion. But I would say so. This event was advertised on social media. Looks like from Stefanie Fetzer, promoting this event on October 27th at the Prairie Pavilion. A meet and greet with Dan Gookin, having political tacos. There it is. And then so Dave was inviting people to have a backlash meetup. I would say there was probably 20 some, mostly Catholics there, and one child, somewhere around 8 years old. I would say maybe 9, probably 8. Real sweet kid. And so we were just there anyways. I was just kind of there to film whatever, but they're there to ask Dan Gookin some tough questions. And then we found out after the fact that that venue was changed. Stefanie changed it from the Prairie Pavilion to McKinsey River Pizza, and the capacity at both places is essentially the same.
So I want to make certain that I'm understanding this correctly.
I can't hear you.
Did we lose you?
You still there? Well, that's not good.
We'll keep talking. So what I'm understanding Casey to say is that there was the advertisement of the event at the pavilion food court there.
I can't hear your audio.
Okay.
Maybe we need to have him log back on. You want to send him a message and tell him to log back on?
Sure. Let me try that. You keep talking. Do a reprise there.
We'll get him back on here and see what's going on with the technical difficulty, because it wouldn't be a Liberty Without Compromise broadcast without some kind of technical difficulty. But so Casey said that from what I understood, it was advertised that there was going to be this meetup for Dan Gookin and Dave Reilly on his podcast, The Backlash, was announcing it. And did I understand correctly to say that, and this is what I wanted to ask for clarification, that Dave then invited people to come to the event with beers and pizza?
I don't believe that that's what he was saying. I think he was inviting people to come to the event. I don't think the beer and pizza had anything to do with it. Casey, I'm going to bring you back. Can you hear us now?
Okay.
Yep. All right. So let's try to pick up.
So I want to go back and get clarification. So when Dave was on his podcast, The Backlash, and was informing people about Gookin and him being at this location and this event, was he encouraging people to come to the pavilion? And where did the beer and pizza, I want to make real certain I understand that part. Where did that come in?
He was just on it. I remember, I think the 2 weeks prior on his show, he was just saying, we're going to meet up at Prairie Pavilion at 5:30, whatever. And he was just promoting a meetup. He never said, from what I recall, why. And so that was kind of the gist of it. You can go back and look for yourself.
But he was there more or less to go and kind of be controversial to Dan Gookin. Is that a fair statement?
I mean, it was he's running for mayor, so people had questions for him, right?
Right.
So,
but we know that they don't like each other, so it would safe to say that there was not going to be any softball questions, correct?
I would say that's a fair assumption.
Yeah. Okay. So at some point, though, when the event day came and Reilly and many Catholics that you had described came to the location, they realized you couldn't bring any alcohol, so they left their alcohol.
Hold on. This is where I feel like we've never gotten to this.
Okay.
Did you ever hear Dave Reilly say anything about bringing beer or pizza? I think he said. Is that on record?
Did say that on his show, because that, from what he understood, they had sold alcohol in the past. We just thought, he just said that, but from what I understood, there was food, but that wasn't brought in because the sign said you can't bring outside food or drink. So that was respected. And then Dave just went, and other people went and bought from Taco Works and some of the other trucks there and respected that.
Okay. And so at that time, when did it dawn on the people in attendance that Gookin was not going to be there?
Well, I would say there was, like I said, about 20 some people showed up. When we first walked in, we had Dava Lou Cummings and her husband that were sitting there like pretty early too, like around 5 o'clock. And then they shortly thereafter went outside to one of the trucks to order some food. Really at right about 5:30 on the dot, the cops showed up and they were there to trespass us from being there, essentially.
Had you seen any of these flyers that some unknown entity had created and were allegedly passing out?
Yeah, so essentially what happened was the cops came in to trespass us. William Lee came in and he took video of everybody in there to make sure to document who was there. And then he turned around and walked out. And so I guess my question is, if the venue was changed and Devalu and William are in Fetzer's circle, why were they there? and 90 minutes prior to that venue being publicly announced that it was going to be at McKinsey River Pizza. So that's really kind of questionable. And then there were flyers that were handed out to some of these food trucks. And I do remember when I first got to the Prairie Pavilion that one of the ladies at the Taco Works truck was really kind of keeping an eye on us. I happen to remember that right off the bat. So, and then shortly thereafter, the cop showed up. The cop went up and talked to the Taco Works truck. I happened to see there was a flyer or something, and so the cops assumed that Dave and the Backlash group had handed those flyers out, but they were actually condemning the Backlash show. They were saying that Catholicism is anti-Semitism. They were talking about how they believe in a monarchy. These are the same talking points that were preached by Paul Van Noy at Candlelight Church and Fetzer and some of these other people. So to me, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to really figure out what's going on here. You know, it would have been fine if William hadn't came in and filmed us and then the flyers weren't handed out. If no one showed up, that would, okay, so what? But for that to all happen, that's really what made this worse, in my opinion. And then personally, to have an 8-year-old child there and then that happened, of course, the kid didn't have a clue what was really going on, but that really upset me. And then these law enforcement assets are being wasted. The people at Prairie Pavilion think that they're doing the right thing by reporting this white supremacist group when they were just really there to ask Dan Gookin some tough questions. So it's just all around, it's just a mess. You can believe what you want, but I mean, just looking at all the information, I got the CAD report, which is a computer automated. Well, I can't ever. What's the D stand for in CAD report, Dan?
Dispatch, computer aided dispatch.
Maybe I lost your audio again. I don't know why.
Oh goodness.
The feds.
Yeah,
anyway, I'll just finish this off and I'll jump off and come back in.
Okay.
I don't know why this is happening. But so I got the CAD report. And then I got there was a police report. So usually, and Dan, you can talk about this. If there's a police report, generally when there's a trespass, you have to be asked by the property manager to leave. That's how a trespass works. If you don't leave, the police are called and then a police report is filed. And in this case, a police report was filed outside of us not even being properly trespassed. They were taking pictures of people's license plates. They were documenting names of people that were there. So I'll just leave it there and I'll jump off and jump back on.
Yeah. So I'm glad that while we're waiting for him to come back on, I'm glad that we were able to clarify the beer and the pizza, because that's what I was thrown for a loop.
Yeah, and I could see why that was confusing, because I also, that was the first time I had heard that Reilly was, maybe whether he was in jest or he didn't understand the venue, and so he really was suggesting for people to bring the items. But yes, that was very good to clarify. So it makes sense that idea, the idea actually was floated out there by Reilly. Mm-hmm. But if it was clearly some alternate group that then created the flyer used that as ammunition. Yeah.
So when Casey and the rest of the people got there to the pavilion, it's surprising that for something that public that nobody was clued in on the fact that they had moved the venue. So I wonder how did they accomplish that without alerting you guys that they were moving it down to McKinsey?
No, I think that some people did know that, but I don't know.
There was a message in Kootenai County Spectator. I don't know if it's that's that Telegram group, and so I've got that up on the screen. But it's one where Fetzer was updating, like she said, hey, due to looking like we're going to be over capacity, we're going to have to move the venue. It's too small for me to read. I'm going off of memory, but that'll be legible on the screen. So that's more of, you can get in and view this group, but it's got just over 600 members. And so a notification was sent out there. It wasn't exactly private, but semi-private, because most people don't have access to that group.
But to Casey's point, when law enforcement, my experience, of course, I was in a different state, so I understand there could be, different policies between the states, but typically as long as somebody wasn't committing a crime, we didn't fill out a report if it wasn't required. So frequently we would come to a Walmart or some other establishment, and we would get the notice from the person that was either the owner or the representative of a lease, and they'd say, hey, we want these people trespassed. We would inform these individuals that, hey, you're being trespassed for X amount of time. Definitely. We would tell dispatch, advise dispatch of that, and then there would be a record put into CAD so that at any other time with that person that was trespassed, any other time that we were called back to that location and discovered that person had previously been trespassed, then it would become a crime at that point. So it's not that uncommon not to see a complete police report, but yet while you guys are there waiting and realizing that this event wasn't going to take place, you see former Homeland Security Special Agent Davalu Cummings and her husband, David Cummings, who used to fly fixed wing and helicopters for Customs and Border. They should understand the law and they know how things work. They just happen to be
and that's them
there observing
here,
texting or something on their phone. How long did they stay before they finally beat feet and left?
I would say they were in the area where people eat initially. I mean, they showed up. I would say they were there when we were there, so they were there at 5, and then they went to the food truck after we came into the place where you eat. They went over to a food truck, ordered some food, and then she was on her phone talking with somebody, and then she's texting somebody, and so. We do have pictures of her at McKinsey River Pizza just shortly thereafter.
Sure. So we can't conclusively say this is why they were there, but anybody that's been paying attention to this show for the past several months knows that these things are most likely not a coincidence, that Davalu is a personal advisor to Paul Vanoy. We played her undercover audio a couple weeks ago when she was talking with Paul about us and our campaign. But you guys were told to leave. And when you went to dig in deeper, Casey, to find out, okay, who set all this up? You did a records request and you received 2 911 recordings, correct?
Yes, that's correct. One from, I believe, the lady that works at Taco Works, or somebody from Taco Works, and one of the co-owners of the property.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like that she was probably the young employee working at Taco Works, probably had no idea what was going on, just acted on bad advice, was concerned, and then called either somebody up her chain of command and or the property leasing manager to report this, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like they contacted one of the property owners, and then after the fact, I just read the police report, and it mentioned a lady's name. So I contacted Prairie Pavilion asking, hey, can I talk to so-and-so? And they said, we don't know who that is, but you may be talking about someone from North Idaho Rentals. So I called them and I said, is so-and-so, can I talk to so-and-so? And they said, she's out right now. So they left a message. She called me back. She stated she was the property manager of that property, and that any events that happen at that location have to be okay with her. And there were no events scheduled for that day at 5:30 on October 27th.
Interesting. Fascinating. So by that statement, then the original meetup for Gookin, they had not even run that past management? Is that the way you're reading that?
That's what she said in that recorded call.
So the assumption is...
I explicitly asked, I kind of tried to, I kind of brought up her name. Did Fetzer asked to have an event here? And she said, no one asked to have anything there. I'm the one who decides. She was kind of grandstanding on that fact. So I was just like, did she, whatever. You can get caught in the weeds here and talk about whatever.
But again, both these callers really were more or less indirectly involved, manipulated more likely in order to get a law enforcement response. And so let's just kind of recap this for those of you who are watching, saying, well, who cares? Big deal. Look, when you concoct something and you make people in the public believe something to be true that is not, and then when you further manipulate unknowing individuals to contact law enforcement so that law enforcement then takes action against your political adversaries, that's not okay for me. And it's disrespectful of law enforcement. It's disrespectful to the community at large. And it says that your tactics are not solid. They're not principled in even what we call Republican ideals, right?
Absolutely. And one thing I do want to mention is that one of the interesting aspects of this was this meeting that occurred at Candlelight Church. I believe it was April of last year, right before the elections. I think it was in May, right? Those elections last year. So they had met, this group had met at Candlelight Church with Stefanie Fetzer and Lucky Barnard and some of those other people. So I wanted to go film that because I heard they were going to be talking about groypers and just, it sounded kind of interesting. So I want to go film it. So I showed up with my camera at Candlelight that day, and Erin Barnard told me that I probably wouldn't be able to film. And not long after, a security guard told me I couldn't film, so I'd take my camera out. But I mic'd myself and I recorded the audio. They had just prior had 3 representatives there: Ben Toes, Elaine Price, and I believe Joe Alfieri. So right after they spoke, then there was a panel with Stefanie Fetzer, Lucky Barnard, and Pastor Jason, I'm forgetting his last name, but they were talking about groypers. They were talking about these people in the conservative movement that believed in monarchical ideology. And so when you look at these flyers, those talking points are in those flyers that were handed out to these food trucks. So to me, it's really not far afield to connect the dots here. Paul Van Noy was basically condemning Catholics at his church. So,
well, and then he accused me of being a recent convert to Catholicism that then was excommunicated, wondered if I was a white supremacist. I mean, we know the playbook, which is similar to, what rules for radicals, what the leftists often do, and it's not cool. Then you went a step further when you did your records request, and you found out that Stefanie Fetzer, the political operative from Northern California, recent transplant to Kootenai County and heavily involved, that she just so happened to conduct a records request from the Coeur d'Alene Police Department for what? What exactly? I think we got this slide up here for this invoice for the records request. What do we have there?
That's the invoice, but I did a record request for the records requests,
right,
for a week-long duration. So I got all the records requests that were submitted. I got about 50 of them. None of the addresses were redacted, by the way. I'm just going to put that on the record. So
sure,
I released Stefanie Fetzer's request for body camera. She was asking for everything, which you can see in that invoice. But she requested it literally an hour, half an hour, whatever, after Dan Gookin spoke at McKinsey River Pizza at 8:50 that evening. So
she went in, got logged into her Coeur d'Alene records request account, like you and I both have, and just was that quick interested in knowing what happened because she just somehow knew that there was going to be police action up at the Prairie Pavilion.
Well, I mean, it obviously she knew that happened, but why would you want to? I mean, we don't even have to ask why. I mean, really, it's telling in itself.
Sure.
In my opinion, it's just, it's right in your face. So
I'd unfortunately had originally understood that Reilly and others were going to show up because, again, they were going to ask the hard questions out of Gookin. And somewhere along the lines, as they were there, the flyers were being passed out that somebody had made that was saying, hey, come out here for free beer and pizza. So that it sounds like I was a little bit off on my facts on that understanding then.
Well, we're on.
Go ahead.
While we're on this, we had a comment, not really a question, but a comment that I'd like either of you guys to respond to from Beverly. She says, what's sad is it's hard to know what the truth is. And I think that's unfortunately people are realizing, and that goes back to me saying, I think the voter turnout in this last small election, it's declining. And that's part of it. It's hard to know what the truth is. So at that point, why are you going to go vote? But she says, so Beverly says, what I do know is Dan Gookin is a slime. If these people are buds with him, then I know the whole bunch are poison, lying scum. Thank you for putting this info out there. So that's a loaded statement.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear Dan, and then maybe Casey piggyback on that. Yeah, go ahead.
Why don't you put up, Donna, if you could put up that screenshot of Gookin talking with Fetzer and William Lee and Davalu Cummings, talking about how I submitted a record request through the city of Coeur d'Alene. So why is this person who just became mayor, why are they telling someone in this Telegram chat, hey, by the way, Casey Whalen did a record request for your names? Does that sound like a real principled person to you? And I have to give William Lee credit here because he does say, I don't think the city has a duty to inform everyone involved in a public record request, do they? Seems shady that they do that. I mean, maybe.
Well, my take on that
post there, but
my take on that one, Casey, is that most likely he was notified, and all he was doing is saying, hey. Just so you know, I got notice that I was, that my name was included. And by the way, because similar to what you did, once somebody makes that public request, it's not secret anymore and anybody can obtain it. So I don't know that I'm as hung up on that part as maybe you are. I totally understand where you're coming from and respect it. And I think, yes, I mean, it does appear that you have an elected official that's currently in office that gives the appearance of using his insider baseball to inform the people that supposedly had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it seemed like cozy at minimum. It was just kind of a little bit too cozy.
Yeah,
it's extremely telling.
Sure. Look, I agree with you. We oftentimes come to similar conclusions based on common sense and what is the laws of probability. And then people still say, well, you have no proof and you're making a big leap. Well, okay, are we really? But this question from Beverly, Dan Gookin's slime. Now, I personally have met Dan one time right after the election. In fact, it was back beginning of this year. I sat down and had coffee with him. I'd never had a one-on-one. This is way after the election. I find Dan to be actually a super nice guy. I think that he's fun to talk with. We went over things that we agree on and disagree, but I didn't find him to be a slime ball or slime. Again, your experience may be different. I adamantly oppose his views on the Coeur d'Alene hate speech ordinances and hate crimes. I mean, we are not on the same page when it comes to that. We are not on the same page when it comes to the surveillance state and giving law enforcement too much toys and power without being accountable. So I just want to throw that out there. You may have a different experience, and I know, Casey, you had your personal experiences, but I did not endorse nor promote anybody. That's up to your own conscience for each of you out there that are voting.
I want to know from Beverly, as we're still talking this through. I am extremely curious, and this is legitimate, this respectful question, how it is that you formulated your opinion that Dan Gookin is slime. And I legitimately, I would love for you to answer that in the comment section so that we can continue that, because there's some propaganda that I saw circulating that a large faction of people just latched onto that and never. Have you ever gone to a council meeting? Have you ever met with Dan Gookin? Do you know how he votes, what he stands for? And Dan's here responding to some of that in the areas where he doesn't agree with Dan Gookin. But as far as him being slime, what is the foundation of that frame of reference? So if Beverly can jump in on that. And then Casey, anything else you wanted to say on the Dan Gookin argument?
Not necessarily, no.
Yeah.
I mean, well, they did pass this hate crime ordinance this last year, right?
Yes.
And it just mimics Idaho's malicious harassment law, but at a local level. So I do have a problem with the Idaho malicious harassment law because it does involve speech. Yeah. And we have laws against murder, on and on and on. Yeah. We don't need to create specialized classes of people to just the job of the legislature is not to infringe on the rights of the people. So at the end of the day, that's the metric, and you don't get to violate that.
And I agree. I mean, I break it down like this. If you are a victim of a crime, the person that commits that crime against you hates you by definition of the crime they're committing against you. I think we can all agree that's a general broad statement, but we don't need special enhancements. In fact, I watched the FBI agent along with the Coeur d'Alene, I think, police officer, I forget what his name is, when they interviewed that kid that started the entire massively blown out of proportion, supposedly racist event that happened down when the basketball teams were here in 2024. It was one of the stupidest interviews I've ever heard of a suspect. I mean, these guys look like they came out of interview class 101 and were in their testing phase. It was the shittiest interview. And no offense, they may be outstanding agents and officers in their own, but I thought the whole thing, from the inception of it, the lies that were told, the things that were going around the country, it was a debacle. And that's when we need leadership to come back out and say, look, we as a people do not promote hate of anyone because we are all equal in value under God. We're not going to put up with somebody having a crime committed against them. But at the same time, we will not suppress speech. You can be the most hateful individual in the world, and you should be given even more ability to spread your hate because you cannot suppress the First Amendment. However, as we're seeing played out in real time, you guys all know this. If you're watching anything on TV right now, you know what I'm talking about. We are seeing in real time people that are saying heinous things on both sides of an argument and then equally being challenged by multiple different directions. The American people can fix their own problems by the open marketplace of ideas. I'm not for cancel culture. I mean, you and I have talked about this, Casey. I am not a fan of Reilly's. I disagree with him on so many instances. And I absolutely, personally cannot stand him. But what I will say is I absolutely 100% support his right to have his podcast and to have his views and to say what he wants. I will defend that. And I think that the same people also that are bitching about that have no problem in coming after Teresa Barnpole at the town hall because she was being loud and upsetting people. But they're the same people that also think that if you were at January 6th and walking and trespassing there and doing those things, that those people shouldn't have been, charged and prosecuted. The whole point is, as principled conservatives, you have to allow the things that you hate when it comes to the public spaces, because to suppress any kind of First Amendment rights is to be an offense to the Bill of Rights itself, to who we are as Americans. What do you say?
Yeah, I completely agree with your statement. Yeah, absolutely. I don't have much to add to that, but yeah, I agree with you.
We're hedging on about an hour here, and Dan and I, we tried to make a pact tonight. Okay, we gotta get it closer to an hour than what we've been doing. But here's where I want to go, because with this incident, I don't know what we're calling it, TacoGate, pizza and beer
yeah,
gate.
I like that TacoGate.
TacoGate, whatever we're calling this. I want to get back to the why this conversation matters, and I'm curious, Casey, because you've been on this scene much longer than I have. So many people. These sorts of behaviors where they're using these kind of tactics against political opposition. Have you seen this before in your experience here in this county from Stefanie Fetzer or this group or these circles that she runs in? Are there other incidents similar to these, or is this a first of its kind that you've noticed?
Honestly, I'm kind of busy doing other things. I'm not completely focused on Kootenai County as much as I used to be. So really, honestly, I don't. Okay.
And that is one of the things we say. The larger conversation here is that we did launched and premiered an investigation on Stefanie Fetzer last week that was quite comprehensive. That was months in the making, and collecting data and speaking with people that had associated and run in her circles as a political activist in Sacramento County. And so what we did a really good job of proving and showing the track record of are these sorts of behaviors by Stefanie Fetzer prior to her arrival in Kootenai County. And then some of these same very similar like-minded tactics that she was involved in during our campaign. And that's when it was on our radar. Otherwise we're like, weren't coming after you for no reason. Yeah. She came onto our scene and was a big time detractor during the campaign. And we were able to trace that all the way back to something, Casey, you were saying in this incident, you can see the rhetoric from these people, and it's the same rhetoric that was then on this mysterious flyer that was handed out. So while we're not definitively saying, oh, yes, we have the evidence of who handed this out, you can come to a pretty good conclusion as to the source. And that's so it's more of the same from, and Stefanie Fetzer's right in the middle of it. I'm not here making an accusation that she was, using Illustrator and creating the flyer herself, but it's the same rhetoric coming from her and her camp. And we know that she was doing those same things during our campaign. Yep. And that's where all that messaging was coming from.
Well, it started out with the Candlelight Crew and then part of the KCRCC. I mean, before they had this fracture. And it sounds like from what you're saying, Casey, this fracture more or less started around April of 24 when they had this Groiper, you called it a Groiper event at Candlelight Fellowship.
And they're talking about monarchy, how these people wanted a king. And so to me, it's this church that fervently promotes Israel is trying to remove people that would be opposed to Israel from the Republican Party. That's the story.
Well, let me ask you this. You've been accused, and you can answer this or not. You can be accused of being a racist. Are you a racist? Are you somebody that hates Jewish people just because they're Jewish, or are you more against the current government? What do you say?
No, I'm not. I don't hate anybody, and I have Jewish friends, so no, I don't hate anybody. What I do not like is the American people being taken advantage of by a foreign government. That really pisses me off, honestly.
Sure. Okay. Well, I had to ask that because I've had people, like me, we get accused of all sorts of things, and I wanted you in your own words, if you were comfortable, to clearly define that. But, we all, if we want to preserve liberty, we all have to start holding each other accountable, and we have to start raising the bar because these tactics that's going on, there is nothing that separates the woke left from the woke right. I mean, it's all the same tactics, it's the same game plan, and it's not compatible with the Constitution and Bill of Rights by a self-governing republic.
One more question, because we got accused of this over on the X platform. How dare I, align? Maybe because you comment. If I comment on a post on X, we had a troll come in there and say, how dare I associate with a cop hater? Are you a cop hater? That's what they were accusing you of.
Oh,
and now I'm socializing with you.
Well, I mean, when I first started doing this, I didn't even know how to do videography. So I had a camera shot in 480p. And I couldn't even see the viewfinder, so I was like blindly filming the police with this camera, making videos. But no, I don't hate the police. My point, what I first started out doing this is I was trying to hand out constitutions to law enforcement as a litmus test for them to see or to find out if they understood our rights. And largely I found out no, but it's largely because of the administrative state, and the cops have to do what the administrative state says.
They don't teach in the academy. I can tell you that firsthand.
So I don't hate cops, but I was frustrated because I was trying to, I got like 120 full-size constitutions from the Idaho Secretary of State's office. I would take those into the police department, sheriff's department, film them. I started doing records requests. I find out the law enforcement is disseminating me through the fusion centers. So early when I started out, I was a little bit adversarial with the cops, I'll admit, but that's changed. I mean, that was just to try to show people that where we are in America, and so I found that being disseminating information to the public is way more it's just the way to do it. It's you're more on the level, and I just found it more, I don't know what the word I'm looking for here is, but fruitious, I guess. To go that route. And so it's been fun to learn all these different aspects, how to develop stories, records requests. So it's been a lot of fun, honestly.
But yeah, people definitely don't like when you start, and especially when there should be public accountability in a position like law enforcement, they definitely don't like being questioned in the area of expertise of what they do. So you're definitely going to have adversaries at that point of anybody who's sticking up saying, hey, don't, because to even ask me is to accuse me, and they get pretty worked up about that.
Yeah.
But I think if we all, though, we have to keep everybody accountable, every one of us, because we know the nature of man. And without us self-governing our own selves and not playing tyrant by allowing the process to unfold the way our founders set it up for us to elect our representatives. I mean, that was my whole bitch about the KCRCC and the Candlelight people, is they never just said, hey, go out there and shout your ideas and then, vote your conscience. It was, we're going to attack, we're going to kill the baby in the cradle. And that is not conducive to our republic. So I just want to say again, thank you for coming on and giving us the back story on what took place there. And we appreciate you sharing your information with us.
Where can people find you if they want to follow? Because this is a tiny snippet of what you said. You were even alluding to, look, I a lot of times don't focus on Kootenai County because you're going outside other areas of Idaho for your investigations and reports. So how can people find and follow you?
Yeah, I'm currently working on public records requests through the Idaho legislature right now. I'm working on freedom of speech issues that are ongoing, with such as potential anti-Semitism bills and that sort of thing. So I'm conducting a lot of records requests. I actually have got something really good today. I'm not going to break it yet, but it's really interesting. But yeah, but people can follow me on X, Casey_Whalen. That's WHALEN. I'm on Substack, CaseyWhalen.substack.com, and my now somewhat defunct Rumble channel, which I don't use a lot, is North Idaho Exposed. So that's how you can follow me. And thank you both for your time today.
All right. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Casey.
I want to get back to this because I know we're going to wrap it up here in a bit, but I had asked Beverly earlier when she just was saying, look, if these guys are for Dan Gookin, well, they must be bad guys because Dan Gookin's slime. Well, she has been so kind as to expound on that in the comment section.
Let's pull that up.
And I'd love for you to get your take on this because we've had this discussion before. So her saying, okay, good point, maybe a little bit harsh because she doesn't know him personally, but after seeing the disgusting things that he said on his channel about Christians, it made her sick. And then there's a little bit more of that rundown in that vein. If she did say, I mean, I guess it's possible that those were AI, but if he said she saw the video where he was saying those things, and that was my suspicion that her feeling and belief on Gookin was based on that video. I wanted to verify that first.
So thanks so much for following up on that. Look, having gone through the process of running for office, it opened my eyes to how much disinformation, how many lies are spread. When Gookin was making those videos, this is my understanding, those were several years ago, and I think it was probably very similar. I'm not making any excuses, just to be clear, but we oftentimes take Christians to task. As a follower of Jesus Christ, who it breaks my heart what we are seeing going on
this program.
We're critical and we mock what goes on. And anybody could take, and I'm surprised nobody's done it yet. They probably haven't seen it. Many controversial things that I say and splice it to make it look bad. Gookin did address this because that video that was spliced together came out several years earlier. Mm-hmm. And I think about 2 years ago, if I'm correct, he came out and addressed it.
Yeah. So Beverly, I will find that link for you and get that too.
But there's other things that are going on too.
For example, like in one of those clips, and again, you're gonna watch Gookin's response to it yourself. But say you're doing a show and you come out and you're sickened by the behavior of people who call themselves Christians, and you say it in a mocking voice with air quotes. And the reference, or as Gookin has described it, the frame of reference was he was seeing bad behavior by people who call themselves Christians. And that was the direction he was going in that particular statement. Yeah. But then that was spliced together with a bunch of other things to make it sound like he's mocking and jeering and, saying the F word and all of that.
Well, and again, people should have a right in their free speech. And, I did appreciate when I ran, when people would come up and say, we heard things about you. And some of them were like off the wall. Mm-hmm. And I always appreciate having the chance to clear it up. But, you always have to verify, because politicians, I'm glad I'm not a politician, will say whatever they have to. there's a couple things that I observed during this election cycle that frankly are a reflection of how dishonest the anti-Gookin people are. And what they were doing is they had the No Kings March again right there on the corner of 95 and Appleway, just right before the election. And in that kind of grassy area between the right-of-way and the parking lot, like ours, people had placed signs, and there happened to be a Gookin sign right there, high visibility, and it was there. I checked, and I asked Gookin, and he confirmed that it was already there. But this is how dishonest the other side is. As soon as the No Kings protesters came in and took up residence on that corner, they took a picture of these protesters with the Gookin sign, say, see, the protesters love him, and we know that he's scum. And it's just, it's flat out, it was fabricated and made up. And so I've seen a lot of dishonesty by people who either are so eager to say something bad about Gookin, or want to win so bad that they're willing to stretch into sensationalize everything. The other thing is that somebody made a comment up here. I don't remember where it was, that something about Gookin. Let's see if we can find it.
If you give me a clue.
Here it is. Let's pull it up on here. Bjorn, Dan Gookin deserves certain criticism, but Bree Gookin is awesome. I want to say I absolutely concur on that 100%. Bree is she's just a firebrand, and I have not spent. In fact, I've never spent any time other than we saw her on the sidewalk with Dan.
Yeah, just
right before the election, walking by,
paths crossing. Yeah,
but we see her. We feel like we know her because she comments.
Yeah,
and she can hold her own. I mean, she is intelligent enough to have good arguments. And I see people melt down all the time. Look, at the end of the day, folks, you get to choose who you want to support. That is your right. It is your own conviction. That is only between you and your God. The problem is, again, and I just want to bring this up. If Reilly was going there to cause a scene, I hear what Casey's saying. I knowing the way Dave is and some of his past history, he tends to be controversial. Those aren't the time and places to do that, right? When somebody hosts an event.
Well, and Stefanie Fetzer could equally say she caught wind that he was going to show up because he was commenting about it on his broadcast. Yeah. And she had every right to just switch venues because she didn't want to deal with any of that if he was showing up to make a scene.
Sure.
And you can't blame her for that either.
And we don't know. But having been at the brunt of that in the very beginning, there is nothing good that comes out of hostile audiences when, look, everybody needs to answer and give an accounting. I love debates. But also when you're campaigning, it's not conducive to have people that hate you just there to show up to, we're going to show the world how bad you are. You can do it respectfully. So, I mean, I get part of that conversation and that argument.
They do it and then put you on the defense because it's hurling negativity. And then they take it a step further and accuse you of not running on your ideas. Well, you came and ambushed every public forum so that you couldn't say what your ideas, spend time talking about what your ideas were.
Shar, let's talk about this. Shar Cox, the food truck pavilion just lost a customer. I'll be passing the word. Thank you, everyone. I understand where you're coming from. There was once upon a time I myself would probably be right there with you. But can I appeal to you just a little bit? I'm gonna wear my cop hat for just a second here, and citizen business owner. Law enforcement many times is used unsuspectingly by other parties that want to get other parties in trouble. In fact, I think that you could almost make an argument there's criminal conspiracy by Fetzer and Davalou, if they were involved, just completely hypothetical.
There's some evidence there.
By people that know better, especially Davalou, the former Fed, to where, you work together to conspire in order to get others to put a false police report. Understand that the people that are there, they don't really know what's going on. They're running a business.
Yeah.
If you're running a business and somebody said, hey, they're going to have a meeting of child abusers that are going to be meeting here, you would probably go, hey, we're going to venture on the safe side. You're dealing with people that are probably not much more than minimum wage that first reported that, so cut some of them slack. Look for patterns of behavior, but let's not become a cancel culture at the drop of a hat. Let's be more thoughtful in it and ask questions.
Casey actually had just sent a private chat here and saying that the Prairie Pavilion was 100% used. They were stuck in the middle of whatever that operation was, and at the hands of who it was, they were stuck in the middle, and so they had to do their best to ramp up, coming in blind into that to figure out where to go from there. So it's easy to look at it like, well, people shouldn't have been trespassed from there, but they were still trying to figure out what was going on.
Bjorn Handing, worst thing Dan Gookin has ever done, convinced me to run for precinct committeeman for the first time in 2008. Well, there you go. Watchman Ministries.
Oh, Watchman Ministry gave us a link to Dan Gookin's response video. So check your comment section, scroll through it, make sure you expand your comments to see all of them. And you can click on that link over on YouTube. And Dan Gookin responded to that chopped up video, the edited version where it's caused outrage amongst conservatives and Christians. He responded to that a couple of years ago. And yet that the edited video continues to circulate. And the reason that was such a hot button issue for me when Beverly brought it up is that you have to be so cautious on deciding on a candidate or an elected official and coming to some kind of concrete conclusion based on any soundbite, because that was happening tirelessly to us during your campaign. They were able to position you as all kinds of things, just spread lies through and use the KCRCC and also Candlelight Church and the altar to spread an absolute false narrative.
When John Padula, who is apparently running for county commissioner again, he's going to have his announcement on December 4th to run again for county commissioner. You mean when Pastor John Padula perpetrated a lie claiming that I had cussed out Tim Remington in a private conversation that there was only the two of us that we knew about?
Yeah. My favorite part was when he said, maybe you can take that comment off the screen for me. But my favorite part was when we actually talked to him directly on the phone to say, what's your take on this? Like, why are you telling people you heard something you didn't hear and heard something that didn't happen? And he's like, well, I've only, what did he say? He'd only told 5 or 10 of
he told 5 or 10 of his supporters
or people that were helping him on his campaign, which was laughable because imagine how that spreads like wildfire when you put those lies out there. That's the thing. That's just the thing to be cautious of, because these are very powerful political machines such as the KCRCC and Paul Van Noy at Candlelight Church that are controlling your political narrative. They're controlling what you hear and what you see, and they're telling you what to think. And you've got to be able to pull yourself up and out of that and go directly. If you have a guy who's running for sheriff, go directly and say, okay, this is what I'm hearing through the chatter of KCRCC. What do you have to say about all this? Which you did do a good job of in your town halls, but I think those powerful political machines in Republican Party here did a good job of keeping those voters away from your public town halls.
Here's how you solve it. Bjorn, maybe you have some pull with the great Zamboni. We need to have real, true, honest debates. None of these forums. I mean, the forums have a place, don't get me wrong. But we need to have debates where it can be candidate to candidate, throwing out whatever they want, defending it, supporting it, no 2-minute time limits. But there needs to be a real ability to start showing the public how incompetent some of the people are. I mean, I'm not going to go back over again my special list of incompetent people, but I think that if you go through the KCRCC's vetting committee's surveys that the candidates fill out.
Did you just say you have a special list of incompetent people?
Yeah, there is.
Can you turn that into a PDF? Can we share that?
Well,
Dan Wilson's
I don't know if I have
list
that
of
time.
Incompetent people.
But I mean, look, there's some people that if you can't even, and I'm going to say this again. Okay. I got accused of being completely anti-Gookin during the campaign. I got accused of being totally anti-Debbie Loffman during the campaign. The other ones never really commented, but there was all these assumptions out there. If you're here's a pro tip. Take it from somebody that ran for 10 months, 7 days a week. If you're going to run for a position, you should know that position inside and out. You should actually have all your talking points ready. You should understand what your priorities are and how it matters for the office that you're holding. And unfortunately, there were those that were running that did not appear to me, including the sitting mayor, what the hell the mayor even does. And when it came down to, Gookin, whether you like his politics or not, he at least understands how government works. Again, not saying that I agree with how he does things, but you have to have a good, solid panel of people that are going to go up against. I mean, asking Debbie Loffman at the last minute to pull out of the city council race in order to run for mayor, I mean, you get what you get, but you can't have somebody that's running for mayor that doesn't have a business here in the region, that's not contributing to the local economy, but wants to help small businesses, but apparently is too good to have their business right here. Sorry, Debbie, if you don't like that, it sucks, but that's my belief. You also should actually understand what the office of mayor is, and both. I mean, I think John Pulsifer, when he started out, I like John. Mm-hmm. John, I believe, could like that become a very good representative because he's a quick study, he's self-made, but don't come out talking about schools when the mayor doesn't do anything with the schools. Mm-hmm. Stick to what it is that you specifically have. And, you got Angelo Brunson, doesn't know a thing about the water or sewer, but somehow he's more capable than the next. So anyway, off soapbox.
One more, Beverly. I appreciate this comment too, and it flows so well with this conversation. So I've got to highlight this. She says, I normally don't give hearsay another thought. Most of the time, I'll put this up on the screen, most of the time it's dramatized, blown out of proportion. Seeing that video, that's all she needed to see. And she says, I was convinced Dan was a horrible human.
Dan Gookin.
Dan Gookin. What would you suggest to get accurate information? Because I love that we're presenting a problem. What's the solution?
The solution is that, unfortunately, or fortunately, I think it's fortunate, you have to actually seek out the candidates that you are going to vote for. You have to actually invest your time. That means not taking kids to baseball games if you got them, not watching your favorite Netflix show. I mean, we all have the ability and the duty to look at these people and to see what they are. Go to their own website. Go to great sources like Watchman Ministries. If you are a person of faith, look, there is a organization that actually asks the candidates to answer in their own words what their beliefs are on many different great, valuable topics. Then they do an actual in-person interview, and they're not promoting or suggesting anybody. They're just allowing you to use their resource. A lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of expense goes into that they're doing because it's a community service, even though they get shit on all the time because, they're not part of the group. But that is a very, very good organization to go to. And then, actually go see the person yourself, look at their town halls. One of the things I find laughable is the meet and greets that the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee candidates seem to do. None of them know how to do a freaking debate. Here it is again. Debate. You can show how competent and incompetent a candidate is by how they're able to withstand the questions and to be able to articulate more than a 2-minute soundbite.
Yeah, but,
I hope that answers your question.
Yes. A reminder that QR code for Watchman Ministry is up in the corner, because that is the problems that we presented tonight is how do you know which ends up? How do you know what to do? Watchman Ministry is giving you an alternative. They're providing a solution to that. And that, what they are doing, I've said this in previous episodes, that is truly a voter guide. The card that the KCRCC puts out, that's not a guide to anything. That's them telling you we have filled in the bubbles and we are telling you how to vote based on our very subjective vetting process. That's them telling you how to vote. Watchman Ministry is providing a guide. Prior to the election, you could have seen every one of those mayoral candidates answering the same question on a video interview, and then you can read answers to other questions side by side in written form, and it's just information. Watchman Ministry is not recommending. They're not telling you how to vote. It's merely information.
They're aggregating important information
are.
specifically for people of faith.
And going to great expense to do it.
Okay, MD, the full videos are even worse. This is precisely why Gookin refuses to share them. Okay, I don't know the validity of that.
Yeah,
Maybe you're right.
He had other comments that he was running a search on X, and Gookin had actually removed the original videos because his MD's stance is that when you see them in their full form, it's even worse.
So MD, I got to ask you, what specifically is so offensive that you take that Gookin has done that's immoral? Or again, I'm legitimate asking a question, because if you're going to make a statement like that, damning evidence, the full videos are even worse. What does that mean? Does it mean that somebody cannot be critical or
I carry a pretty good weight
Absolutely.
in our community.
I'm going to start that over because it looks like we went offline.
I'm going to sound very arrogant now. Every politician, everybody running for office always calls my office and makes an appointment to see me. But that's not how you get to me. And again, that sounds very arrogant. And I'm sorry, but please forgive me for what I'm about to say. I carry a pretty good weight in our community. And if people want to get to me, they got to get to me the right way.
I told you this, I told you it sounds arrogant. Almost everybody that runs for office comes and sees me personally. They make an appointment, they get into my office. I don't pursue them, they pursue me. I mean, not to mention, now I'm going to be a jerk because I know you're here to try to get me to pay attention to Dan Wilson. Dan Wilson has not done a thing to get my attention. He has not called, asked for an appointment, offered to take me to dinner, to lunch. He's not wined and dined me. And you know what? It sounds arrogant, but that doesn't fly with me. I'm an imperfect man and arrogant.
Yeah. So a great point, Donna. MD, why is it offensive what Gookin says about Christians? Again, I've not heard the whole thing that you're talking about, so I can't speak firsthand. If that's truly heinous, why is it any less heinous? Or do you agree with us that Pastor Paul Van Noy, behind closed doors, telling people that you have to get to him in a right way, he's a really big deal, you want to get to him before anybody else because he carries a big weight in this community, and he's sorry to sound arrogant, but Dan Wilson, as somebody that was running for office, offended him, didn't ask him the right way on how to meet him, email wasn't sufficient enough, and I should have bought him a steak dinner and thought that he was a really big thing. Why is that any less offensive? Or is it? It's questions that we have to ask.
And that really, I mean, not even the MD brings up a good point, which creates that debate of Dan saying, why is it any less offensive? And especially so when you have a guy who's a religious leader in the community stating in his own words, his level of importance, and everybody that runs for office typically goes through him. He is shaping political conversation and influencing
using the cross
community
of Christ
and using his church and the pulpit and scripture and religion in order to do that. And that kind of brings us full circle in our program tonight when we were originally discussing and had Casey Whalen on, that you've got Stefanie Fetzer, Davlu Cummings, Erin Barnard that are at the center of this controversy where they're doing hit pieces on political opposition, and all tied in with Candlelight Church.
And you don't think that Paul is at all at the center of all that?
Well, he defends them. He gets offended if people online speak out against these ladies.
Yeah. Well, look.
And I know you had a quote.
We do. We're going to close this up real quick here. Let's pull that up on the screen. Quote from Thomas Jefferson: "The issue today is the same as it has been throughout all of history, whether man shall be allowed to govern himself or be ruled by a small elite." Ask yourself, is Paul Van Noy being one of those elites? Is he trying to control the narrative and the political landscape in Kootenai County? What about Brent Reagan? I mean, he equally is doing, in my opinion, wrong in trying to be a small elite that tells the rest of us what to vote for. And by the way, what is your excuse, those of you that 70% or 65% that aren't even voting? You guys deserve exactly what you get. Now, be strong and of good courage. Strive to do the right thing, and we'll see you guys soon.
I think we got another sock puppet account online. Spreading the narrative again.
Oh, isn't Liz Matthew one of those Candlelight, the former IDF guy?
Yeah, it's a guy.
Yeah, I think it might be the IDF guy that was the information dude.
Yeah.
Intel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Liz.
We're on to you, bro. We're on to you, and you're over there on X too.
Hey, Liz. I see the way Stefanie Fetzer, my belief, can't prove it, but her and Davlu, the former Fed, use law enforcement to go after political opponents. I can tell you as an officer, when I was out there in the field, I didn't appreciate people using law enforcement to weaponize against their friends. So we've seen plenty of cop hating when it comes to the Candlelight crowd.
Anyway, nice try. Sock puppet accounts we don't interact with them other than to entertain and collect data.
Oh, it is entertaining.
Collect data. We collect data.
It's easy to actually spread truth and talking points. They're using communist tactics. That's why you don't play their game.
No. Yeah. Said it before, say it again. Dan and I will never operate under some other false profile, fake name, parody page in order to go after an opponent or somebody that we're trying to expose. We do it as ourselves and putting our own selves on the line. We thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you so much to independent reporter Casey Whalen. This is Liberty Without Compromise. You can visit our website to listen to past episodes. Check out that investigation that premiered last week, the one on Stefanie Fetzer. You'll see just what all she has her hands in. She's trying to defend it. She actually had to lock down her profile.
Oh.
Most of what was public on her profile, she locked it down. But I'm sure she's just waiting for it to blow over because she's been here before. She knows the drill. She's get her advisors, lock it down for a while. It'll blow over. You could come back stronger than ever and talk about how embattled you are. Go to our website, libertywithoutcompromise.com, or our YouTube channel is at the Idaho Sheriff, and you can watch that Stefanie Fetzer investigation. For our podcast, be sure to listen and subscribe wherever you get your shows. Share this live stream to your page or profile. Watch it again. Share it with your friends. Even after we're live, watch the replay. Anything else?
Are you still praying for our friend Jim? Are you guys out there praying for my friend Jim?
I know they are.
Jim is a living testament to your prayers. Hey, if you guys want to ever meet up and have a Liberty Without Compromise celebration, we all come together in the cause of liberty to encourage each other and talk about all those things liberty related.
Yeah, but
let us know. We're thinking about a couple venues here.
Wait, yeah, but then would Dave Reilly try to crash it?
Dave's a lightweight. I can handle Dave.
TacoGate.
Tiki Torch Dave. By the way, last week, Casey and I were having spars. So, I mean, I love all the fact we throw people into confusion all the time. That's what free speech is. That's what liberty is. You don't have to be aligned with somebody 100% to still say we come together in the cause of liberty to promote life, liberty, and property. So challenge you to do that very thing.
I was just giving us a little more music. There was no smooth way. There was no smooth way to crossfade that. We thank you for joining us tonight. I think Dan and I are off. We're gonna go enjoy.
Yeah.
Let your comments flow. Thanks, guys. See you next week.